Bittie sat on her porch, rocking gently in the evening breeze as the sun set over the Kansas prairie. At 87, her body was frail, but her mind was still sharp, filled with a lifetime of memories from the farm where she'd grown up. The cows, goats, mule, rabbits, dogs, and barn cats of her youth felt like distant friends, faded yet familiar. As the stars began to emerge in the darkening sky, a black shape caught Bittie's eye. A cat slinked across her yard, pausing to regard her with luminous green eyes before continuing on its way. Bittie shivered despite the warm air. Something about the animal unnerved her. Heaving herself up from the rocker with a groan, Bittie slowly made her way inside. Her social security check barely covered the essentials these days. She'd eat a humble supper of canned soup and day-old bread, like usual. In the kitchen, Bittie gasped as a smoky black form materialized in the corner, four-legged and feline, with eyes that glowed eerily before it faded into nothingness. Her heart pounded. Was her mind starting to slip after all these years? Unsettled, Bittie said her prayers with extra fervor that night, asking the good Lord for protection and peace. But her rest was disturbed by strange dreams of yowling cats and dark, swirling mists. She awoke feeling exhausted and anxious. Over the next days and weeks, Bittie was plagued by sightings of the ghostly black cat. It appeared unexpectedly, slinking across her porch, staring at her through the window, leaving sooty paw prints on her clean linens. And everywhere she went, living felines seemed to track her. They crossed her path on walks to the market, perched on fence posts and stared at her knowingly. Bittie didn't know what to make of it. Was she losing her faculties in her old age? Or was something more sinister at work? Desperate, Bittie turned to the only one she thought could help, Pastor John at the local Baptist church. Trembling, she confessed her troubles to him, fearing he'd think her an addled old fool. But the pastor listened intently, his weathered face creased with concern. "Animals are God's creatures too, Bittie," he said kindly. "Perhaps this feline spirit has a message for you. Have you considered what it might be trying to tell you?" Bittie was baffled. What could a ghost cat possibly want to communicate to her? And why her, of all people? She'd always done right by the animals in her life, caring for them as best as she could. There were no skeletons in her closet, at least none she could recall. Pastor John smiled gently, patting her gnarled hand. "Open your heart, Bittie. The Lord works in mysterious ways. Be still and listen for his meaning in this." Bittie left the church with more questions than answers. But a seed of curiosity had been planted. What if the cat was trying to tell her something? She determined to pay closer attention. That evening, as she sat down to her meager meal, the black specter appeared yet again. But this time, Bittie steeled herself and looked directly into its eerie eyes. "What do you want from me?" she asked aloud, feeling a bit foolish. The cat blinked slowly. Then, to Bittie's shock, it spoke not audibly, but directly into her mind. "Forgotten," it said cryptically before evaporating into thin air. Forgotten? What did that mean? Bittie racked her brain. She'd always had a keen memory, able to recall events from decades ago with clarity. Was the cat suggesting there was something important she'd forgotten? Over the next days, Bittie went about her usual routines, rising early, tending her small garden, fixing simple meals, and of course, walking to the market for groceries several times a week. The black cat continued to appear to her regularly, but it never again spoke. It simply watched her, as if waiting for something. Frustrated and fatigued by the visitations, Bittie decided to do as Pastor John suggested. One balmy morning, she settled herself on the porch with a mug of weak tea, closed her eyes, and tried to quiet her mind. "Lord," she prayed, "if you're using this creature to send me a message, please make it plain to me. I'm listening." Slowly, Bittie allowed her thoughts to unspool, drifting back across the decades. She remembered her childhood on the farm, the comforting rhythm of the seasons, the companionship of the animals. She thought of the stray dogs and cats she tamed, the goats she milked, even the irascible old mule, each one precious to her. As Bittie slipped into a meditative state, a memory began to take shape, rising to the surface of her consciousness like a bubble in murky water. A tiny black kitten, half-starved and shivering in a barn stall. She'd found it while doing her morning chores at age 14 or 15. Moved with pity, young Bittie had smuggled it into the house, determined to nurse it back to health. What was the kitten's name? She strained to recall. Something with a Z. Zelda?
No, Zeek.
That was it. Little Zeek, her secret pet. Bittie smiled at the memory of his soft fur and little pink tongue as he lapped greedily at a saucer of milk. But there was more to the memory, an edge of darkness that made Bittie's stomach tighten with long-forgotten dread. Zeek had quickly charmed Bittie with his quiet, undemanding presence. He'd perch on the edge of her bed as she did her studies, or wind around her ankles as she did her chores. It was nice to have such an easy rapport with a living creature, to feel that pure, uncomplicated love. But Bittie's joy was short-lived. Her father noticed that food seemed to be disappearing from the pantry at a faster rate. He questioned Bittie, his eyes hard and knowing. Lies had tumbled from her mouth, but he saw through them easily. "We don't need another useless mouth to feed around here," he growled, snatching Zeek up roughly by the scruff of his neck. The kitten let out a piteous mew and something in Bittie's heart seized. But she knew better than to argue with her father when he got like this. Tears streamed silently down the girl's face as she watched him march out to the barn with Zeek dangling from his hand. There was a gunshot and then terrible silence. Her father came back empty-handed and said nothing more about it. From that day forward, Bittie shut down a small part of herself. The innocent girl who dreamed of loving and being loved retreated deep within, replaced by a wary young woman who trusted animals more than people, especially men. Now, over 70 years later, the memory of Zeek's fate hit Bittie with fresh anguish. Grief for her pet, but also for her own lost innocence. The cruelty and hardness of the world. How had she forgotten such a pivotal moment? "Oh, Zeek," she whispered. "I'm so sorry. You deserved better." A soft pressure on her lap made Bittie open her eyes. The ghost cat was settled there, gazing up at her with familiar green eyes. But he seemed somehow more solid, more substantial than before. As she watched in wonder, his missing eye and ragged ear filled in. His patchy fur turned sleek and glossy. He looked just like she remembered. "Zeek?" she breathed, scarcely believing. The cat head butted her hand, and Bittie felt an electric thrill of connection. Everything seemed suddenly sharper, more vibrant. The breeze caressed her skin, birds sang sweetly in the trees. The very air felt alive with mysterious potential. "I had to go," Zeek said in her mind, "but I never stopped watching over you." Tears blurred Bittie's vision. As they fell, Zeek rose and padded down the porch steps, glancing back at her expectantly. "Come," his eyes beckoned. And so Bittie followed, her body suddenly nimble and spry. They walked together through the streets of town, unseen by everyone they passed. Soon the neat yards and tidy houses gave way to open prairie, vibrantly green and rippling in the wind. In the distance, an arched bridge painted in brilliant rainbow hues came into view. "The Rainbow Bridge," Bittie said in awe, remembering the poem from long ago. As they approached the bridge, a joyous barking made Bittie's heart leap. A loyal hound came bounding toward her, his long ears flapping. "Pete!" she cried, dropping to her knees to embrace him as he covered her face with slobbery kisses. More dogs capered around them, their barks and yips merging into a happy chorus. Looking up, Bittie saw other animals trotting across the bridge to greet her goats. Rabbits, a donkey that could only be old Jake. Tears of joy streamed down her face as she hugged and patted each one in turn. Even the cows ambled up to her, lowing gently and nuzzling her with their velvety noses. The animals from the farm, from Pockensy, from her entire life surrounding her in a circle of unconditional love. She had never felt so seen, so accepted, so cherished. Zeek wound around her ankles, purring madly. "Do you see now?" he asked. "Your love was never wasted or forgotten. You touched so many lives with your kindness and care, both human and animal. It all mattered. Weeping, Bittie knelt and gathered the cat into her arms. "Thank you," she whispered into his warm fur. "Thank you for helping me remember the best parts of myself." Together, Bittie and her beloved creatures crossed the rainbow bridge, her earthly pains and sorrows falling away with each step. On the other side, endless green fields and eternity awaited, where she could love and be loved forevermore.